Hotel 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. I'm stepping up here first because what I'm going to say, I'm hoping will maybe curtail some of the, or maybe sway some opinions and some of the, particularly some of the negative feedback. I'd like to thank the council for voting positive on this during the first round, during the first hearing. I think it's insightful, and I think it's very productive for our community. I'd like to thank the development team for what I think are really good efforts. I think they've really gone through the ringer to meet every demand of our community and to hopefully bring about a state-of-the-art community for our city. I'd like to thank in advance members of our city, our citizens. I'd like to thank you for having an open mind on this. I know there are some people that feel this is just, oh, it's a whole clump of seniors coming in to our city and it'll have, that's kind of a static thought. I see this a little bit more as four-dimensional or five-dimensional. I see it as a nice contribution to the landscape of our community. I see it as construction industry jobs to start off with. I see it as more than citizens working there. I see the senior citizens. I see it as a lot of people that are not seniors who work there. People who are landscapers, people with other services, the restaurants and other services in the area, not necessarily seniors. And this will vitalize that area. I think it'll be very good for our community to have this. I hope that, matter of fact, when looking at the numbers in a city of more than 60,000, I really wonder if this facility would be large enough. So maybe if this is successful, and it should be, there might be others spread out in our community, and makes it that much easier for our community to be able to attend a facility like this. Wouldn't it be nice if you have loved ones, and rather than going communities away, many miles away, possibly half hours, hours away, that we have something nearby that is a high-quality facility that you would be proud to have your people in.
Thank you very much.
So thank you.
And sorry if I mispronounce your name a little bit. I don't, Robert Husted? Is it Husted? Houston. Okay, and next is Ariel Shapiro after Mr. Houston. Yeah, go ahead.
Robert Houston, 1150 Northeast 123rd Street. I've been involved in this project since we moved the NRO line, and I can honestly say when this project was first presented in the beginning, it was 175 apartment units. They're presenting it today with 175 apartment units. I've also looked at different buildings around the city of similar height and density and saw what problems there were. I tried to wrap my head around this building being where it is. I visualized 7 apartments on either side of a hallway of a 10-story building. And I look at the 4 horizons, and there's a 9-story building right on 125th Street. So for me, even though it seems large, it really isn't that large. And I'm 55 plus, so if I'm one of those old seniors running around downtown North Miami, a revitalized downtown North Miami because of that density and future density, which is coming whether we want it or not, we might even be able to get a railway station on 125th Street. So if there's going to be growth, I'd rather have it along the corridors with these buffer zones between the low density and the high density, with a little bit of vision and with a lot of citizen input, because developers need to be kept in check. And I certainly hope that the city will also mitigate parking immediately if it becomes a problem. I think this is a good project for the city, and I wouldn't say that unless I really believed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro.
Yes, hi. My name is Ariel Shapiro, and I live in Biscayne Park, 990 Northeast 120th Street. And, you know, I apologize to everyone if I was making a mockery of myself earlier, but to shorten this up, I'm here just to keep Biscayne Park as beautiful as it is, as it always has been, and just hopefully make it better. The big constructions, I've seen it. I've been born and raised in Miami, and I know what it does. So I'm just here with the people who want to just keep our city, our town, our beautiful place the same as it is. And also, lastly, right by the village elderly home, we need a 4-way stop there because some people really drive very fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is Miss Rasnawati Leo Wenas I'm sorry if I butchered the names. Mr. Leo Wenas, is it? Rasnawati? No? Mm. Okay, and after her will be Miss Abiel Mir. Is it Miv or Mir? Mir, M-I-R?
I'm
Okay, you can go.
Rasnawati Leowinas.
Mm.
I live in 955 Northeast 120th Street, Biskin Park. So my English is not too good, so, but I'm a guest. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Abiel, you're going to. Okay. Okay. Gabriel
We don't know what direction because you're not speaking. So
Gabriel Guerini. Yeah. And after him will be Miss Julia Guerini.
My name is Gabriele Guerrini. I live in 1035 Northeast 122nd Street here, just one block away of the proposed project. I say please vote no for the conditional use permit and bonus units to reduce the density impact to comply to the NRO designation. See, this is a page you can find easily in internet, northmiami.gov. They say, our focus, our future. Diversify and strengthen the retail mix. I don't see any of this. Capitalize the city distinguishes asset and educational cultural community. Strength to exist niche retail. I don't see any retail in this project. Create transit-oriented design project. Encourage parks, plazas, pedestrian-friendly, measure corridors. Nothing. Promote a livable and complete street. Bike lines, parking, pedestrian-friendly, shade trees. I say that this big project, over 200 units with 10-story towers, is probably which just the opposite of our focus, our future. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Julia Guerini, right?
Yes, correct. Good evening, neighbors, council members, vice mayor, and the mayor. My name is Julia Guerini, and I live at 1035 Northeast 122nd Street. Please vote no to the conditional use permit and to refocus this project to its intended use. This lot originally was public use only, and it was restricted to plazas, parks, community centers, etc. So what has changed? Well, the whole NRO thing that everyone seems to be aware of now, but it stands for Neighborhood Redevelopment Overlay, a term that originated from NOMI Master Development Plan, which is at the North Miami, which basically signifies the North Miami Great Vision to revitalize our community, to make it more pedestrian friendly and beautify it. The term NRO was created to allow certain areas to be developed that could not be before it was, but it was supposed to be for the greater good of the community. The NRO was created to strengthen the retail mix, capitalize on educational community, cultural community, create design projects, encourage parks, plazas, bike lanes, pedestrian-friendly areas, and continue the business assistance program to improve commercial facades. This was taken word for word out of the City of North Miami Downtown Development Plan. Do you think this project is in line of this vision? I don't think so. In 2015, the developers petitioned to have the public use only lot included in the NRO. They presented a project which was in line of the vision of North Miami. It had art galleries, art studios, retail, community, and nice walkways. Why would the city now allow them to completely change the project that goes against the city's vision and violates the NRO? Instead of improving community environment by allowing the community to come together, the developers are proposing tall buildings that act like walls to separate the downtown area, which was clearly not the intention of including it into the NRO. It is clear that this development is proposed to maximize the profit rather than to redevelop.
Thank you.
Okay. So just please vote no.
All right. Miss Alina Medina, followed by Mr. Steve, I think it's Santa Cruz, is it? Yeah. After Miss Medina.
Alina Medina, 1270 Northeast 124th Street. I live around this area and I frequently walk in this area, which is a very nice, nice feel, nice atmosphere. And I know that this tall building, this is going to change completely. So I'm totally against adding these extra bonus units. I mean, there's enough money will be made already with what they have. There was going to be, there was another council meeting where there was a discussion of them, the developers also taking care of a rotunda to make the traffic better, and I think that wasn't that followed up for them to do it. So I think the developers have enough already. They're making enough money out of this building. There's no need to add extra bonus units to this, and the people who live in this area are totally against that. So please consider those who live there. The developers do not live in that area. Thank you.
Mr. Santa Cruz?
Good evening. Steve Santa Cruz, 12235 Northeast 10th Avenue, 33161. My home is located adjacent to the proposed project. I purchased my home about a year and a half ago because of its location and neighborly feel. As I said before, I represent a younger aspect to the community and its future. I've lived in high-rises for about 10 years to finally move and have one follow me right to my yard, you know. Had there been a structure like this, I would not have purchased my home. Development is great, but this is not the right project for this community. The vision of North Miami and downtown, as I have read, represents growth and exciting projects, and I feel like this is not that. This project is not that. Consider the new neighbors moving in with a vibrant energy. They will not be open to buying into this neighborhood. Anyone who has seen my home has seen that I've invested much into it because I intend to live in it for my future. This is a very big deal to me, and to see a monstrous building in front of my home every day was definitely not in my plan. So please hold the project back, vote no until the developers propose the correct project and maintains the neighborhood as it should be. This is what it would look like from my home, and this is kind of like, this is what I ran away from. So, you know, this is not what I want to see every day. So please, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Miss Valerie Holt and Mr. Robert Holt.
Valerie Holt, 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. The developer has claimed a mixed use based on the residential, which are the 55 plus and the ALF, plus retail as a second, plus restaurant. Those three elements would make up the three mixed uses that are necessary to allow the council to grant a mixed use permit. The area proposes a cafe at the corner of 124th and 10th Avenue, and that's one element which they're using to fulfill the mixed use component, and that's the element of restaurant. But they're not opening a cafe. He's hoping to rent to an outside party. I asked at the community meeting, what if there's no outside investor? Are you going to open one? Well, no, they're not opening a cafe. They're hoping to find an outside party interested. And if there's nobody interested, they're a business. They'll have to rent whoever comes along. So the third component of their mixed use is based on wishful thinking that they would like to happen. In fact, the developer is claiming and asking for a granted mixed use based on a hypothetical use for one of his uses. A cafe on the street corner must not be considered as a factual element unless the developer assures the installation and management for this particular use. Therefore, we ask that you decline the application for the mixed use permit until the developer shows that all three components of the mixed use are factual. Because when you give that, you're giving him the rest of that, including the 90 bonus. In addition to this, the city's now implementing one parking space per living unit. They have 175 living units. They don't have, but there are no reserved spaces for each of these units. You come home from work and you have to hunt for a parking space. Plus, they said they need an additional 100 to service the facility. That's 275 parking spaces right there. And they're basing the reduction on shared parking. How can they determine when people come and go? This is Miami. People work all hours. They come and go all hours. Now, we ask that you hear our voices, and that until those issues are clarified and properly addressed, that you vote no on the conditional use permit and the bonus units. Thank you for your time.
I'm Robert Holt. I live at 1050 Northeast 122nd Street. I ask that you deny the conditional use permit and bonus units at this time. Many of the so-called improvements to the community are strictly private to the development, such as the rooftop playground for visitors' children. Where is the playground and green space for children who live in our neighborhood? Excuse me. This public use area could have been provided that opportunity with a little foresight from our elected representatives. I guess the residents and their families don't count for much. Vote no, prove us wrong.
Let's try to hold your applauses, please, so we may continue. Mr. Carl Hoover, followed by Mr. Eduardo Santos Lima.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. My name is Carl Hoover. I live at 1070 Northeast 122nd Street, about 4 blocks from this development. I'd like to stress that it was very kind of the developers to invite us to a 4th meeting. I found it very informative. They were reasonably open to our suggestions. But nonetheless, we still find this project to be too massive and inappropriate for the area, and I urge you to vote no. A 10-story building just is ill-fitting, and it's just simply something the neighbors don't want to live next to. Thank you.
My name is Eduardo Santos Lima. I live at 1030 122nd Street. I'm providing to the council members 3D view from my home and the ones from Mr. Santa Cruz. The major concerns of the neighbors is density, and it has never been knowledgeable or addressed on the revised plans for this project. During the last meeting that was held between the developers and the area residents, I asked the developer how many units could be built in the 1.95 acres. The developer confirmed the number of 85 units. Then I asked how many stories would be needed to accommodate those 85 units. The developer responded between 5 and 6 stories. I replied, yes, that's the main point. What I meant by that, right? That the council members could approve this density, and this would be a density that is acceptable to the area residents. The reduced density and height is a much better fit to the area. Mr. De La Gloria reply was that they have the right to build 175 units, and this will be the case. And if they were not allowed to build that way, they would put in place a 10-story building with only retail because they have the rights to do so. I got the impression this was a scare tactic to intimidate me and other residents present. Now I ask you, dear council members, where is the compromise? Where is the engagement of the developers to the community points of view? Where is the consideration of the true value of this project to the community? Is there misinterpretation of our city code to manipulate or push this development through? Where's the respect of the developers with the concept and principles of NRO? Where's the integration of the neighborhood and assimilation to the master development plan of the city? There has been no respect given to the ideals of the NRO concept and the major real concerns of the area residents in these revisited plans shown today.
Thank you.
Please vote no.
Hold your applause, please. Hold your applause. This is my 3rd time saying that. Mr. Sébastien Levieux, you are next. Mr. Sébastien Levieux, followed by Miss Maritza Torres.
Good evening. My name is Sébastien Levieux. Sorry for my English. I'm learning English. I live in 1030 Northeast 122nd Street. I am a 3D artist. I want to show you a 3D view from of the building seams from the street in front of my house, which is 2 blocks away. I'm again of this construction is too massive, and they need to change the height. You can see it's this. I live here. And I don't want to see like a wall of concrete in front of me when I wake up. Just vote no, please.
Thank you. Miss
Good-
Maritza.
Good evening. My name is Marisa Torres, and I'm at 901 Northeast 120th Street. Thank you for your support, neighbors, and being here. And the presence of all of you is also as well important. My neighborhood has enough problems as it is. For the lack of parks and green areas. As a matter of fact, there is only one small tiny park in Biscayne Park, and a lot of our neighbors visit a little park. We also have a lot of green areas that we do enjoy, but a lot of our neighbors come over to use it because they don't have enough greens in their area. And I'd like you to take that in consideration. I love my home and my neighborhood, and I also came from a condominium who was once beautiful and was trashed within 5 years after the development. I ask you to deny the permit to this development. Vote no. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Brian, is it Jenks or Jenks? Jenks, Mr. Jenks. Followed by Miss Iliana Albaran. Is it?
Good evening, Brian Jinks, 860 Northeast 122nd Street. I think all the facts have been presented on the size, the scope, the density, the developer, the beautiful pictures, the neighbors are upset by this. It's quite a journey that this property has gone from a public space to a 10-story building, 180 units now, et cetera, et cetera. Is this really the revitalization that we want for the downtown area of North Miami? I don't think it is. Just want to express to the council and the mayor that when you rose your hand and you were voted into office, you were voted by the people, for the people. And I think you should really look for the quality of life we're trying to develop here in North Miami, and is this going to be one of them? Again, the quality of life, what is this going to do for the surrounding area and also for our town? So close to literally what we call Main Street, 125th. I don't think it's a good fit. I'm not going to beat the drum. You're very well-educated men and women. You've seen the case. You know how you feel about it. Again, I don't think it's a good fit. You'll have your own feeling, but please understand tonight the power that you have. When you vote, there's no coming back. Are you going to be the grandparent, the grandmother, the grandfather that drives by this eyesore with the traffic and go, my God, how did this thing ever get built in North Miami? Who did this? Your grandchildren are going to look at you and go, you did it, you know? Be very careful. You have to swing a lot of power with this project. Please consider it, and thank you for your time.
Iliana Albarran, 849 Northeast 121st Street. We are not against development, one that is compatible with the neighborhood. We have met with the developers and city staff to work on something that is compatible with the neighborhood in terms of size and character. The major concern of residents, density, has never been acknowledged or addressed by the developer or the city. The density has remained the same. They just move it from a 6-story, 7-story building to one 10-story and one 3-story building. They're using now 1.95 acres for their density calculations. However, a third of the property is occupied by an ALF that is not being counted in the density. So their density calculations should be based on only 2/3 of the size of the property. Assisted living facilities can't cram people in at random. The number of residents allowed, the density of the building, is determined by the size of the lot, correct? So either you count the dwelling units using our zoning laws, using the city's own regulations, specifically policy 1.37, that counts a maximum of 2.5 occupants as one dwelling unit, or we're asking that the square footage of the assisted living facility be removed from the 1.95 acres used to calculate density. On top of all of this undercounted density, they're asking for bonus units. With the granting of the conditional use permit, they're asking us to override our zoning laws, which state that 2 adult living facilities can't be built within 2,000 feet of each other. That's section 5-202 of our LDRs. Again, we're bending for these developers. The interpretation of our city codes by our city staff is questionable, and nothing should be voted until these 2 questions are addressed. On the record, I want to ask again, Please answer, are 2 adult living facilities allowed to be built within 2,000 feet of each other? And the second, why is policy 1.37 not being implemented in transcribing 2.5 occupants maximum for 1 dwelling unit? And I'd like to ask those questions on the record. Please, Tanya, answer. Thank you.
Miss Alicia Morgan, followed by Mr. Roberto Orozco.
Is anyone going to answer her questions? No. Okay.
You have your 2 minutes.
My name is Alicia Morgan, and I am a resident of Biscayne Park at 12,000 Northeast 8th Avenue in Biscayne Park, and I also have a business that's located at 125th Northeast 7th Avenue in North Miami. The business I own is Immigration Lawyers USA. As a resident of Biscayne Park, I would like the City Council to vote no to tab I, mainly because this would greatly affect and increase our traffic and accidents in Biscayne Park and North Miami residential areas. It has been stated that the neighborhood traffic will be minimal because of some changes that have made to the development, but human nature and the app Waze will indicate that that is completely false. People will drive through our neighborhood, and the traffic that will increase will be tremendous. I'm a member of Nextdoor, a neighborhood app wherein I regularly hear complaints from the locals that people are driving too fast in our neighborhood, causing accidents and deaths of our pets. The increased traffic to this development will greatly impact Biscayne Park's traffic, which, considering the way that people are driving in Miami, would greatly put our neighborhood safety at risk. Secondly, as a business owner in North Miami, I would urge the council to vote no to tab I, because this property is supposed to be a commercial property with mixed public use and resulting in North Miami's community benefit. The fact that the property will be used primarily for residential use will take away from the public benefit that could otherwise come from the space, which is next to a museum, commercial property like shops and nice restaurants. In the interest of North Miami's growth as a city, which will benefit my local business, I recommend that this space be used instead for commercial use or public benefit as a community facility instead of primarily residential use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roberto Orozco, 1045 Northeast 122nd Street, 2nd District. I also have a unit in this District 1, Northeast 135th. Long-term resident of North Miami. Initially, I was for this project, but considering the proximity to my property, it's just a massive wall that I'll be looking at every single day of my life. It is easier to be for this project when you live in North Bay Shore Drive, where probably all you see is the water. And I also want you to please consider the petitions from the neighbors in Biscayne Park. I know they're not your constituents, but we live in happy harmony with this community. It's gonna affect us all. I want you to please reconsider the additional allowance. It's too close to my house, and I thank you for your decision.
Thank you, Ms. Marilyn Chisholm and Ms. Sylvia Maiello. Maiello or Maiello?
Okay. My name's Marilyn Chisholm. I live at 850 Northeast 123th Street, right down the street from this massive, giantly enormous thing that you're planning to put up, which I hope does not happen. The amount of traffic right now on our street is unbelievable. There's no one that drives down there at 25 miles an hour. There's only one posted sign. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this will only add to it exponentially. Besides the fact that this is public use, which now is a parking lot. So there is that song that some of you may know. They paved paradise, they put up a parking lot, and now we are planning to put up a giant oversized development instead of something for the children, something green, something for everyone to go and enjoy themselves and relax, instead of a giant thing that is going to benefit only the developer and the people who make this and the revenue that comes in to them. besides the fact that these dwelling units, the limits to the number of dwelling units allowed are for per acre to the size of the lot, as Ileana said earlier. And they are not calculating this correctly because they are not calculating the ALF residents' dwellings as part of anything. That is as zero. So the city code stipulates that 2.5 of the ALF residents should count as one dwelling unit, but this developer is not even putting them in. We need to say no to this oversized thing and for him to not get his conditional use permit. We need something better for our city, and I'm sure that someone can come up with something. Thank you.
Silvia Maiolo, 800 Northeast, 124th Street. I didn't want to come tonight, but I'm very happy to come and to hear all these people. I wonder who benefits this project, because we live in a community, and a nice community, and the neighborhood don't want nothing like this. We want something better. We always want to grow and to be better. If you made this building in another place, it's all right, but you don't make this building around where you live, because if you make this building around where you live, you come over here next to me and next to them, and you don't want this. I'm very sure that Mr. Prevatelli don't live around this in this neighborhood. You must live in a nice place, maybe next to the water too. And oh, I'm sorry. I have to repeat.
Just remember that when you turn your head away to talk to the room, we can't hear you and the TV can't hear you.
I said that Mr. Prevatelli doesn't live in this neighborhood. I'm pretty sure because he live in this neighborhood. They come to protest like they did before a lot of time when something doesn't go good with him. Yeah, I live in Buenos Aires. Like it's New York.
Guys, please, 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 please,
But
please.
this is not the best place to build something like this. It's a beautiful project, but North Miami.
Thank you very much. Miss Marcela Montano, followed by Miss Marisol Medina. And Joaquin Vargas.
Okay. My name is Marcela Montano. I reside on 1135 Northeast 133rd Street. I'm relatively new to the neighborhood and did not take part on previous meetings or presentations of this project. So this is kind of new for me. But I'm here to ask you to vote against this massive project of 175 units. I do not see how a project of this size would improve our neighborhood. I would like to ask the developers to include the density of the assisted living facilities and the calculation of the overall project. Please vote no for this project. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marisol Medina, 1270 Northeast 124th Street. I'm like a lot of my neighbors and the other 163 who voted against the project initially. I'm grateful of how the developers worked with us. And they're actually probably the nicest developers that I've seen come to the city, unlike some other ones that have monstrosities coming in, and he's got about 3 of them. I'm concerned, like everybody else, about all the traffic. So I've been paying attention to the area more than I normally do. And I saw 20 cars parked in their swale that they're gonna reduce to 2 parking spots or 4 parking spots, just coming from that church. So can you imagine once that building does come and all the visitors on top of the church, where are they gonna park? They're not gonna park in parking spots, they're gonna park everywhere that they can, all the way down the street. I liked the initial project when they talked about having a huge plaza with art that we can all partake in, as it's supposed to be within that area, something that all of us can enjoy. I give it to them. It looks pretty, only if you're inside the building. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Joaquin Vargas? No?
He's actually part of the applicant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
What about Miss Candy Keener? Who keeps this?
Hi, I respect all the council members. I live at 12100 Northeast 10th Avenue, so you can imagine how I feel. But I'm not here to advise any of you council members. I'm here only for, please, to look within your heart, pray on it, and then do what you think is right. God bless you all.
All right, public hearing is now closed. I called all the names. What's your name? Some way, somehow the card didn't make it to me. No, we have to have the card. No, just come and fill out one.
My name is Mary Schuweiler. I live at 1070 Northeast 122 Street. The movement of the NRO line permits this lot to have mixed use only when the conditional use permit has been approved. The conditional use permit was denied at a previous meeting and comes again before you for reconsideration. And I urge that it not be approved for 2 reasons. One, not all of the conditions for mixed use have been satisfied. In fact, satisfied. Not conjecture, not hypothetical, in fact. 2, what is proposed is an overwhelming and ill-fitted project that is the result of poorly conceived features added on in an effort basically and singly to gain the maximum number of bonus units possible. The result is a poor fit for the space and a poor fit for this community. The base units allowed for this space is 85, a figure that makes sense given the low-density residential area in which this project sits. The current number of bonus units proposed, however, doubles the size, scope, and impact of this development. In its current form, this project is unacceptable to the residents of the surrounding neighborhood, and we, the residents who live and own property in this area, who were here first, are not against development of this lot, but we remain concerned, very concerned, that the current proposal is simply too massive and does a disservice to the area. We are concerned that it will destroy the tranquil residential neighborhood that is adjacent to it. As suggested by Councilman Galvin and BNMA, we met a few weeks ago with the developers, and we do sincerely appreciate that they addressed some of the cosmetic and traffic flow concerns that were raised. Nevertheless, a main concern remains the inappropriate density level proposed for the space and its impact on the surrounding residential area. This issue has not yet been adequately addressed. This is still a massive complex, a 7-story and a 10-story building, as well as a 5-story parking garage, as well as a 3-story LF. And the direct result, it is the direct result of excessive awarding of bonus units that really are, many of them, a torture construction, putting in a bike rack, 5 units, putting in, calling something an urban space for public assembly, which is basically a sidewalk or a setback, and bang, additional units. And these need to be looked at critically and carefully, and more conversation needs to happen before this goes forward. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. You may fill out the card now, ma'am. The card. Okay, we are back here. Is there any more presentation from the from the developer?
You have your cross and rebuttal.
Cross-examination.
Rather than bring up Ms. Albaran to, if that's your correct pronunciation, I apologize. rather than bring her up to cross-examine her on 2 points she raised, I'm just going to do it simply. And also elicit this through my questioning of Ms. Wilson Sejour. The issue of no ALFs being allowed within a certain distance of each other, I'd like to submit for the record the business tax receipts that are on file with this city regarding both Villa Maria and St. Catherine's. The Villa Maria is a nursing home under your code, and St. Catherine's is a rehabilitation hospital. These are your own records, which I'd like to make part of this record. Second, under your own code, an ALF is not a dwelling unit. It does not have a kitchen any more than a dormitory room is a unit. So the only two real issues that were raised to challenge the conditional use permits applicability, I've answered. And again, I don't need to cross-examine them and make them feel, you know, under any type of pressure. The only other matter, and we didn't necessarily want to get into this because, again, everything you've heard tonight, citizens have every right to their opinion, but it is only opinion. And I will bring up the traffic engineer, Mr. Joaquin Vargas, to address that one point about traffic. But I have to tell you, I just have to tell you this. Your own city has put out a resident's guide to quasi-judicial process. In your own pamphlet, it states what the law is, okay? It is not a popularity contest. Politics can play no part in the decision-making process. Bringing 50 people to a hearing, all wearing the same color t-shirt or carrying signs or some other type of demonstration of popular support or opposition is not supposed to be taken into consideration by the members of the city council or the board. Clapping and cheering in support of the statement someone is testifying to is not supposed to occur. Asking everyone to stand up who is in favor or in opposition to an application has held by the courts to be improper. Under the Apopka case, long-standing law in this state, opinions of citizens who are vehemently opposed to a project not based on substantial competent evidence is not a legal basis to deny this. You are not only articulating that through the comments of my friend and well-respected Councilman DeSalme. What he has stated is a deliberate violation of the law. You are setting yourselves up, and you're setting the citizens of this city up to pay for the lawsuit that you're going to face. I have been a member of this community one way or the other since 1995. No one has cared about this community more than me, certainly as much as me. And people can laugh all they want. They don't know who I am, and they don't know what I've done for the city. Okay? So please, do not set yourselves up for this suit. It is not going to go well, and it's not going to be close. And your own city attorney could advise you of that, but I'm not going to put Jeff on the spot. And you're going to have the citizens who are here clapping tonight to pay for the lawsuit. And eventually, this will be built. So tonight, all I'm asking for is for you to approve a portion of what's going to come before you. This is going back to square one. It's going back to the design review board. It's going back to the planning and then back to you. Okay? And during that process, we're going to continue to hear from the neighbors. We've heard from them 4 times, and tonight we've demonstrated the changes we've made as a result of those meetings. So all I'm asking you to do is actually focus on the resolution in front of you. And again, I'm sorry that I had to kind of take that position. I would like to, I didn't interrupt you. I would like to ask Ms. Tanya Wilson to come forward. I have some questions for her. She went somewhere? Okay, well, in that case, let's hear from Mr. Vargas regarding that one traffic issue, and then I'll cross-examine your planning director.
Thank you. Council members, I see the mayor's not here. For the record, my name is Joaquin Vargas. I am a traffic consultant. The address is 8400 North University in Broward County. Regarding traffic, we did undertake a traffic study, conducted traffic count for the area, and the traffic associated with this development is manageable. Most of the traffic is going to come from 125th Street to and from the north. The county publishes information regarding different sites within the county. They run this model, and based on that, it tells us where traffic for each one of the developments is coming and going to. So in this particular case, most of the traffic is coming to and from the north, 125th Street. As you know, we have 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 10th Avenue, all of which have traffic signals with 125th, which is going to bring traffic south to 124th. Your city staff reviewed our traffic study. The city also retained the services of an outside traffic expert, Kittleson and Associates. They reviewed our traffic study and they concurred with our conclusions. And as the architect mentioned, there has been some additional restrictions made to access. All of the inbound traffic is going to come from 124th Street to keep the impacts on the local residential streets to a minimal. And we do have one exit onto 10th Avenue, and that is going to be channelized, oriented so that all the exiting traffic is heading back north towards 125th Street. So that's, that's a quick summary of the results of the traffic evaluation that we did.
Is Ms. Wilson Sejour, I'd like to ask some questions. Okay. What is your current position with the city?
I'm the planning director with Community Planning and Development.
Do you have any accreditations from any organizations?
I do. I'm AICP certified as an urban planner.
Could you tell us what those initials stand for?
The American Institute of Certified Planners.
Okay. This agenda item memorandum was issued by you through and with your staff, the
Yes.
staff report?
Correct.
Okay. In analyzing the application in front of you, did you have to go through the various conditional use requirements for bonus units?
Yes, there's a criteria outlined in the code.
And could you explain what that criteria is?
So in the code, it requires that the application meet the limits of the comprehensive plan. It has to show that it's not going to create a burden on the level of service for infrastructure, for traffic. In looking at the criteria of the code, staff believes that the application meets each of the criteria that's outlined within the code.
There was one issue raised about this did not qualify as a mixed-use development. Did you analyze that issue, and what is your conclusion?
We did, sir. We found that the uses did meet the criteria of the code as we define mixed use within Article 7 of the code.
Okay. I would like to, and I know it's already really part of it, but I would just like to state for the record that we are introducing the staff report as the only substantial competent evidence that has been presented to this council this evening. Again, thank you, Ms. Wilson. Again, just to sum up for 1 second, I would appreciate it if you follow the law. I know that there are people here who want you to vote this down, don't really care if we're going to sue. Too bad. They certainly wouldn't be taking that position if they were opposed to your deliberately breaking the law on an issue that they like. Thank you.
So they pretty much done. It's we back
Public
to the
hearing is
guys.
closed. It's back to the
Public
days.
hearing is closed. So it's for us to comment, opine, and.
Can I?
We want to go first?
No,
You can go ahead, Alex.
No. Go ahead. I will give you absolutely after you, Madam Vice Chair.
As far as
You should always yield to women.
Yes, absolutely.
As far as ex-party communications, I have spoken to Mr. Della Gloria and Mr. Frankel. I don't believe, since the last meeting, I don't think I've spoken to anybody else.
Yeah, in terms of ex parte communications, we've done this at the previous time. So if there's been any communications since the last time you,
Those are the only.
yeah, then go ahead and mention them now.
Just since the last meeting?
You've already put on the record your conversations before, so unless there's
Yeah.
been new conversations, there's really no need at this point.
Okay. I know I'm not popular with the neighborhood, but in 2015, we changed the comp plan from a 55-story, even though it says PU. This property has never been PU. I think it had to have been a mistake. It was originally C3. This property was owned, it's been owned for more than 40, 50 years by Nations Bank, who sold it 20 years ago. I just pulled up the deed. Nations Bank owned it for years. It's always been a bank because I've lived here my whole life, which is a lot longer than 50 years. They've owned it. It's private property. It's been the lot attached to the bank. It might say PU. Even Villa Maria, which says it's a PU, is not PU, meaning public use. It is a private enterprise. You have private individuals owning this property who can pretty much do whatever they want if the zoning allows it. These people are not going to build you a park. They bought this to develop. They're not putting parks up for people. If the city wants to buy it and spend millions to put up a park, that's not really what our city wants to do. We have a development plan for downtown, the corridor, the NRO. This property is going to sit as a parking lot. If that's what everybody wants, that's, you know, that's lovely too. But the PU, I think, is a mistake, and it will never be public use. It is going to be private. Originally, this could be, before we did the NRO, it could be a 55-foot height, I have tea, thank you. 55-foot height building, commercial. And if that's what the neighbors really think is better for their neighborhood, a 2-acre commercial building with thousands of cars driving through their neighborhood, strangers driving through their neighborhood every day, if you really think that's better than a residential project. From the beginning, when we first started meeting with the developers in the manager's office, and we've had several meetings with the neighbors, a lot of you were not there, but Mr. Houston was there, Mrs. Medina, I believe you were there. They've always showed us 175 units. They also showed an ALF. I was thrilled with that because an ALF has such low impact to a residence. The people living, the 70 people who are going to reside in this ALF, they're not going to be driving through your neighborhood. I was thrilled because traffic is one of the most important things to me. Low impact. You want this to go commercial. You don't want it. It started out, you didn't want old people, you didn't want affordable. That's where it all lied, and now you come into something else. But this is such a low impact for the neighborhood compared to what could be there. And I mean, I've studied this, I've worked with this. The developer agreed to go back with a 35-foot setback. It was originally 10 feet. So you could have had a 55-foot setback, I mean a 55-foot high building, 10 feet off 123rd Street. They agreed to go back 35 feet. They agreed to keep it at 55. They've gone out with you in the last few meetings since the last development and lowered the height on 123rd to 3 stories. You're not going to get a developer like this. You're going to be really sorry if these people go away and they build something big and ugly. They've even hidden the garage. I'm watching out for the residents. I love the city, and I just think that this is appropriate. We can't tell a developer, we want something more exciting. We don't have that right. You don't get to tell someone what they're going to put there. They tried the artist, but that didn't work. That was my idea. I suggested it to the developer, and they tried to do it, but it didn't work. I don't think you're going to do any better. As far as my fellow council members, you had a room full of people opposing a 300-unit development on 123rd Street. People stormed this room and said no. A failing F intersection. The traffic right now is awful. And my council voted for that one against the opposition. We have another project that just went up on 130th Street. This is a 7-story building in people's backyards on the same block. You've approved that against the neighbors. So I'm really hoping you'll look at the evidence and you vote what you think is right. But I think it's a good project. I think 55 is not that old. You've got a continuum of life with a nursing home, hospital there. It just all works. You got a spouse in a nursing home. This gives you the ability to rent an apartment next door to your loved one. And I know someone out in the audience snickered at that the last meeting, but that's really important when your spouse is in a nursing home and you can't get there because, number one, you can't afford the taxi, you can no longer drive. This is a beautiful thing for our residents. We need nice senior housing. We have none. This is affordable. It's not subsidized Section 8. This is part affordable. It's part workforce. These are for people like teachers, police, first responders. It's something we really need for our city. It's part of our future. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You want to go? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I wanted to make a couple of comments. I came into this from the get-go with an open-minded, and I said at the beginning of the statement, I'm a big supporter of development. And by saying that, I made a couple of comments from the get-go, which I have some concerns some of the residents had. At the last meeting, I asked if they could meet up with the residents to see if those concerns were met. I have not met with staff. I have not met with any residents, and I have not met with the developer. However, I have been receiving a handfuls of emails from the residents as part of the process. What is legal, and I am not an attorney, and I do have a city attorney. I, as an individual who represent the entire city of North Miami, is here to make a decision based on what I think is fair and what is legal in some circumstances. However, I am not going to get, what's the right word, of someone making a comment regarding a statement that I made to that the sufficient language of the statement is apparently threatened to, because I don't do good when people threaten me. That's number one. And if that's what they're going to do tonight, I am definitely moving from my column, yes, because I came into this with an open-minded, listening to the residents and listening to developers, and a lot of the concerns that I had, and I will not be voting in support of this project tonight because I do not do well under pressure. So if the lawsuit's gonna start, whatever, that's something as an elected official that I signed up for. Thank you.
That's Scott.
I didn't have any questions.
Can I go?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. And Tanya, can I ask you one question? What they are asking tonight, it's 90 dwelling unit, the allocation of an additional of 90 dwelling units. Is it correct?
Per acre,
Per
the
acre.
density, correct.
Okay. Right now, how many units can be built without the bonus?
Well, without the bonus, it would be none.
Why?
Which is, so the code in terms of the underlying zoning for PU and also for the designation of community facility has no residential in and of itself attached to it. Your residential for the mixed use is activated only because you have the overlay district that's also included for that property.
That's been the bonus is the entire 175
Correct.
units.
Correct.
Okay, but from that 175 bonus, right, units, I see details about 90 units, right? Why they're asking for. And from detail, it seems like there's a lot of line that look the same for me. I'm gonna give you an example. Structure parking, pedestal. They ask for 5 units, and there's another structure parking, non-pedestal. They ask for 3 units. What's the difference?
So the pedestal parking basically has the buildings above the parking structure, and the non-structured, non-pedestal does not. The project itself has both types of parking features being offered. So they are entitled to the densities that are associated with that in the code.
What is the difference between urban places of public assembly and the landscape and project open space recreational amenities? What it is? What's the difference?
So the recreational amenities is more like your active spaces. They're proposing some type of playground, or they're proposing a pool area. The other one that you mentioned, the first one, the public places.
The project open space.
That's more a gathering space. It allows for benches, seating, trees, places that people can gather, literally, is what the term encourages.
The entire project, it's affordable or workforce housing?
So based on the request, the code requires at least 15% of those units to be workforce. It could be more. In this case, the developer is saying they'll propose more, and it can also be market rate, but at least 15% of those have to be set aside for workforce housing.
Public art?
So public art, what you see in the renderings are really just concepts. So the public art spaces have been identified. So they're placeholders. What the code requires, though, is that for any public art that's being proposed, whether it's some type of sculpture or it's art pieces that are hanging from the building, it has to go before the Arts in Public Place Committee. So all they can do at this place is just identify where it would go, but the materials themselves would have to be submitted for consideration before that committee.
About allocation of dwelling units, what did our code say?
The definition of a dwelling unit?
And who can make that decision?
So, like I mentioned before, Article 7 of your code is your dictionary. It tells you how something is defined. So we can't deviate from
Can
that.
you
So
read
I'll
it?
read
Can you-
verbatim.
Yes.
So it says a dwelling unit means a building or portion of a building providing independent living facilities for one family, including provision for living, sleeping, and complete kitchen facility. If a unit like an ALF has multiple families living within, it does not have a kitchen facility, and it's certainly not for independent living, and then staff cannot constitute that as a dwelling unit. It would be in conflict with the definition in the code.
That means this ALF won't have a kitchen unit?
No, sir.
Where the kitchen gonna be?
They have a central area for communal dining, like a dining hall, pretty much.
Okay, can you continue with the dwelling units and who can allocate that?
So we can only make that determination if it meets the definition of the code. Along with that, the code also gives you a definition under the adult daycare. It's also like an assisted living facility definition. Under section 5-201, subsection D of the code, it says, all adult living facilities shall be considered commercial enterprises for the purposes of all city utilities and sanitation. So even within the code itself, it identifies that use as a commercial entity. Does not meet the definition of dwelling unit, but it's also constituted and defined in the code as a commercial use.
Who can grant the allocation of those additional units?
Only city council can do that. Your code is set up in such a way that the conditional use permits are at the discretion of city council. They make the request through.
Can you repeat what you just said?
Only your city council, the 5 people sitting up there, can make that allocation. The request is made to staff administratively, but the resolution can only be approved by mayor and council.
We're the only one that can decide.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? So, Galvin, nothing? No question. Well, I mean, the only question that I would have, maybe, I don't know, if it's the manager or Ms. Sejou, if this request is not granted tonight, what can be built, or what can the developer move on to build on that property? I mean, just a few examples. You don't have to. Can they build
So
can they put a
it's
Kentucky
two-part
Fried Chicken there?
question. A KFC?
No.
No, sir. If I could step back a little bit. Historically, the site was zoned C3. Prior to that, the site was zoned parking lot. So the history of the site went from a parking lot to C3 to what you see now within the last 3 years as PU. So the question really is, what would PU allow? I could quickly mention a few things from the code. It says an amusement park, a stadium and arena, campground, a driving range, recreational, whether it's indoor or outdoor, like a desert museum type of thing. You can also have under PU. Ooh, cemetery. It's there, I'm just reading what's there, sir. Educational facility, excuse me, educational facility, scientific research. You can have a lab. We mentioned before medical marijuana, like anywhere that you put a medical marijuana facility, you'd be able to put that there, under the NRO category, that is. Radio transmittal service, recycling facility, and urban garden or a museum.
Okay.
So that just gives you the full length of the list. That's only under the PU, but where the NRO is concerned, again, because the property is located within the NRO, the site is capable of being activated into a mixed-use project. So if not this, any other applicant can apply for a mixed-use project.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked the question because we are on the verge of going for a vote. So before I vote, I make sure that I get the proper information. If I vote for or against this project, I want to make sure what the residents are going to get as opposed to this project. And this is something that needs to be considered, by the residents as well. When you go against something, you have to know, watch out what might come, if you go against this. And thus the reason, I mean, as you all know, this item was DOA. I mean, it was already dead. And I was approached, a few months back, by the attorney. I was approached by him to see if the council would reconsider it, and we went and we labored on it, and we came and we rescinded. Did we rescind the previous note? We had to rescind the previous note. I mean, the previous vote, so that we could, come and make, tremendous, changes, as were, required, by the residents based on their, expressions. So I gave the opportunity to the developer to come back, with this to see if they could convince, You know, do we need 4 out of 5 to 3? So, but from what I'm seeing, there is a lot of you know, people who are against it, people who lives in the next, you know, in the vicinity of where the project is going to be. So I don't know.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
I don't know
can
if
I
you'll
ask
allow me to speak or
another-
not.
Yeah.
Would you allow me to say one more word?
Well, Mr. Bien-Aimé wants to say something.
A quick question about what the manager said. Some people said they are asking for 2 things: the additional bonus unit and the conditional use permit. But you said, oh, okay, that's 2 things. Okay, can you say that on record? What we are asking for? It's two things, not just.
It is. I apologize. You're correct. It's the conditional use permit and the allocation of the bonus units from the NRA allocation.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
If I can add to that, just for the record, it's both a residential and a non-residential. It's one permit being requested, but the 2 types are for the residential units and your non-residential space.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman DeSalme, in no way was I attempting to threaten. I would never do that. No, excuse me. Standing on our legal rights is not a threat. We are attempting to advise you that what you are doing is wrong based on your own standards of quasi-judicial procedure. If you believe, Councilman, that there is actually a way to continue to compromise with the community, then we would rather do that than sue you. But I'm certainly not going to stand. Okay, you know what? If this is the community that wants you to do this improperly and illegally, then in the end, I'll be right, you'll be wrong, you'll pay for it, and that'll be that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Judah, one last question. Do you think, I mean, after how many meetings have we had since we've rescinded the previous vote and since we started this whole process? We've had many of them, right? 4 of them? So is it your opinion that the developer has really compromised with the residents to meet them at least as close as they would want the project to be?
So there have been several community meetings.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of concession along the way. At this point, they have given a lot of revisions to the plans in terms of the height, a lot of changes in terms of the use. I can't say whether or not it's to the satisfaction of the residents. I can't speak for the residents, but I will say I've seen the changes in the project along the way based on the request.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. If I may say one last thing before we vote. First and foremost, the legality of us being elected to represent the constituents or the interests of the city was put forth by the voters. If I have a lot of questions, and I'm not going to ask them tonight because I am willing to vote, because I believe if the developer less was said, the outcome would have been different, because clearly it's a threat. And if we're going down legally, whatever the case is, if you're telling me that I cannot make a decision based on issues that I have with the proposal because it's legal, then there's no need for it to even come in front of this body, because I thought that we were elected to make those decisions. Yes, there are a lot of stuff that maybe staff may see it one way, but I think it's my constitutional duty to question staff and I had concerns from the last one, and I was not giving the opportunity before I was threatened. And I'm still gonna say that. And I respect you a lot, Mr. De La Gloria. So in terms of that, less would have been better. because I do say it from the get-go. The first thing that I said was I am a supporter of development. And specifically, I had questions, and I am a supporter of this project because I asked for the residents to meet with the developer to try to come up to a conclusion. So if I am being threatened before I vote that I have to vote yes in favor of something, then I didn't even need to be here. Because, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're going to go for a vote. We're going to go for a vote
I'm
now.
going to offer something.
No, it's time to go for a vote.
I would like to offer something.
It's time to go for a vote.
I offer
I'm gonna
asking
need-
you for I will ask you for a continuance of this item and for a meeting to be held by the residents, by the developer, and by you as a representative of this council.
I'll be there.
So,
Mr. Mayor.
Well,
if you
somebody
allow-
has to, well, he's requesting, so we have to make a motion.
Oh, okay.
I mean.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if
No,
that's
I mean, I need a
if
motion
that's
to-
acceptable, we'll have you there so you can hear this.
But before we do that, Mr. LaGloria, I would say, and I'm not an attorney, but I could read very well.
Of course.
You did come here and made a threat. And sir, I would really consider, and you and I have been friends for years. And I said to you, and I've never, anytime I'm in a position where you are threatening me, then I'm gonna go down and fight. And the thing is, we know it's legal because we have to compromise with the residents. We want something there. And they said they're not, and I'm all for that. And the council, the vice mayor has stated, we have gone against the resident because we thought in our interest, and I think the last speaker said it well, before we come here, we pray, we do what, and we take religion out of it, but we make the best decision that we think. A lot of people are not gonna agree with it. But if you are telling me, well, you need to vote, it doesn't matter what I feel or what the resident feel, we just have to vote for it legal, then I don't even know why the city council exists, in my opinion. So when that statement was made, and I felt I would have been differently if you didn't say anything, because I really had an open mind.
Are we going to vote or are we going to continue this?
I'll vote to continue it because
Fine.
I would agree, and I would meet with the residents. We are gonna have an open-minded, a real discussion, because I did hear that there was some stuff that was given, so I'm trying to be in the middle to both sides. I do want something there. And there are some people who have issues with the LF. Please do not come to that meeting with that, guys, because that is not the intention. We need something nicely there. Let's work something that's gonna be, yes, they are there to make money, because at the end of this, Mr. Mayor, please just 1 minute, because all I heard today was, this is giant, this is enormous, the developers have enough money, this lack of parks, lack of this is too big, I don't wanna see that. Guys, please, we are gonna have this faithful meeting, and I'm sorry I could not be at the last one. Please come with concrete stuff. I know Miss Ayana, we had some real conversation. Please come with some stuff we all could agree, so we could have one last meeting with this. I'm willing to do that if you guys willing to, if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, or the rest of this council. If not, I'm ready
You
to
first
go.
have to make the motion.
I make a motion, we continue it and have one last meeting with both sides, and I will be present out of good faith.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Desume to continue the item. That motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No.
Item passes.
Can you count the vote?
Oh.
Ooh.
Councilman. Okay, I'll do a roll call. Councilman Bien-Aimé, how do you vote?
No.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
No.
Councilman Desulme, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Joseph, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor
But
Keys, how do
promise
you
not
vote?
to speak next time.
Yes.
Item passes 3.
I'm trying to make this an annuity.
3-2.
Well, you would have had it tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
We will.
Do we have any reports?
We will pay for the notice. We will make sure it goes through the city, We will do everything possible to make sure every resident is there, including all the flyers we sent out.
Do we have any
And if you-
reports?
And if you want,
Miss-
send me your information, and I will
Mr. Attorney,
ensure
do you have
that you're
any
there.
reports?
Oh, I do have one.
Yeah.
Before everybody leaves, I want to let you know that the 12th annual Angel Tree is down in the lobby. And if you'll take the angel, one of the angels with the gender and age of children in the community who don't have toys for the holidays, and then bring them back by December the 14th, unwrapped, please, Friday, December the 14th. But please bring a gift for children in the community who might otherwise go without. The Angel Tree is downstairs in the lobby during business hours until December the 14th.
Thank you.
Bring the gifts back here to City Hall to the second floor. Right, the Angel Tree is downstairs right now as you're all running out, but bring them back to the second floor. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to thank and commend our Chief Juriga, who brought the Miami Dolphins, the owner of the Dolphins Rise, and our PAL kids today for a communication session to discuss and open up topics of discussion with the children, with the youth of our community. And thanks to the Dolphins for coming out and working with our youth. So thank you, Chief. It was a great meeting this afternoon.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, is the Park and Rec here? Because I have some issues. I need to talk about Ben Franklin and also Parks.
The assistant director is here, but I'll listen to you.
The meeting is still in session?
Yeah, we might
The meeting is still in session?
Okay, the condition of I went out to Park Franklin twice. The condition, the field is not leveled. So I wanted to know when was the last time it was done, because it looked like it's worse than a third world country. And we need to fix that before the year's out. I know the county does it at least twice. I'm surprised that folks have not gotten hurt out there. And we have kids playing soccer out there, which the condition is really, really horrible. The other, lastly, thing I want to mention regarding, it wasn't Ben Franklin, so they got all my notes all over here. Okay, it's right here. The soccer program, I know it's supposed to be moving to Pepper Park, if that has happened yet. But my biggest thing is the feel of they need to get, because there's no water. The water thing on the grass, it doesn't. There's no sprinkler. It's not level. That's number one. So you'll be walking there, and then I don't know if it's not even grass on there.
So, hi, Christine Carney, Parks and Recreation Department, Assistant Director. We actually have a program that we are starting there within the next couple of months with Stonyfield Organics, and we're doing it's going to be a test park. We're going to have a kickoff for it. You'll hear about it more a little bit, but they're going to come and do a soil test, and then we're going to use non-invasive and non-toxic products throughout the field. So we're not treating it right now because it needs to be completely organic. So once they do the soil test and they come back with how the process of how it will be treated, we then go through that to improve the park, to improve the grass, the growing, and everything that will
What
happen.
about the level?
Yes, that will all take
Okay.
place.
And
But we're going to wait until we test the soil and then get the plan from this group that is going
Got it.
to. Board.
Okay, thank you. That's suffice.
That's a part of our plan to ban completely the use of toxic
Yes,
pesticide
mhm,
in
it's
the
the
entire
start
city.
of, yes.
Okay, thank you. The traffic circleways are horrible. Please have someone, because I know you did it last time.
When we approved the
cleaning.
budget bill,
Okay.
that was added to their scope of work.
Okay, I wasn't there. The last question, Mr. Manager, the CBO allocation.
Clean or repair?
I know I don't want us to be out of compliance with that, because the reason that it came to mind as I was driving here, I received a call from Mr. Jennings to know if it was on the agenda. Can we have it in the next?
Yeah, we
because-
can put it on. I just need to get. I will speak with each of you.
But we already did that. We already.
About
No.
No?
I will
Arthur?
speak with each of you again. We've we've tried to individually come with several of the different recommendations, but this week and next week we'll.
In regards to
Yeah,
what?
because if they had bring it out here, like we did last, we would have said, this, get this, and cut it off, because they're waiting for it.
So
what's
remember we had one of the organizations withdrew.
Yeah, but you already
actually
make the
two.
recommendation. You should bring it here and we will
No,
decide.
But your directive from that discussion was for me to meet with you. We've tried to individually go
You met
back
with
and
I
forth.
don't want to meet
he
with
met
you
with me.
about
So-
it.
We
Okay.
met.
I make my recommendation here.
Okay. So
All right.
That's
we'll
gonna-
bring you what we have, and then you can make your splitting recommendation. But it was
Okay.
kind of all over the place.
Any more reports? Do you have a report, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, two things, Mayor. I need to call another executive session on both the Holland and Eugene cases, so we'll be talking to your staff to schedule that. And also some terrible news. As you know, Weiss Serota Healthman is the law firm for the city. They do a lot of our personnel and employment matters. Gail Serota, who's a partner, and the spouse of Joe Serota, passed away over the holiday. So the funeral's tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'll be attending that. But definitely want to send our condolences out to Joe Serota and the law firm.
Can we send a flower? Or
In
something on behalf
lieu of
the
flowers, they've asked for donations. I can't remember the 501c3, but we are going to be sending something there. I'm not. We'll figure out how to do that, but we'll be sending something.
All right.
Thank you.
You need a motion to
A
adjourn?
quick report,
So,
Mr. Mayor.
I thought he didn't have
And
nothing.
not, I haven't talked. And I think during the budget season, we talked about the repair for those traffic circles. A lot of them been involved in accidents, and a lot of them need to be repaired, and the landscaping need to be redone. We need to redo the landscaping in those traffic circles. If you can have no, it's not country bill. It's park and rec. We're talking about the landscaping. We do the landscaping.
Inside of the
Yeah,
traffic circle.
traffic circle.
When you guys approved the country bill contract, that
We're not talking about
Yeah, but
lands.
they put it in country.
No, it's not. Wait.
We'll take care of it, sir.
No, but it's not, right?
You're saying do new landscaping in the circles?
No, I'm talking about we do the landscaping. That is,
Yeah, that's-
change the trees, the plants, and things like that. You said it's part of country bill contract.
they have in the past, and they will do this because they now have maintenance under the contract.
Yeah, maintenance. We're not
So if
talking
anything's
about
dead, they'll
maintenance.
replace it.
They're
We're
replacing
talking about
dead
dead
shrubs and all that stuff as part of that maintenance.
Okay. Can we have a plan for the next council? How many of them need repair and what are the repairs? Because a lot of them have been involved in accidents. What happened, Carol? What did she say?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.